Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen wa ba'd. In our interactions with one another, one of the most destructive qualities that we can have in our lives is being presumptuous and always coming to a negative conclusion and assumption. What is known as su'ul dhann, having an inappropriate or incorrect assumption of the person that you're interacting with. And whether we like it or not, it's very frequent in our lives that we see someone do something, or we're speaking to someone and they say something, and my mind immediately rushes to the worst conclusion and the worst possible outcome. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us emphatically, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالظَّنِّ فَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ أَكْذَبُ الْحَدِيثِ. O believers, be cautious and make it a point to avoid incorrect assumptions of one another, because the assumption itself is one of the greatest forms of lying. Once it was a very heated battle. The Sahaba on the one side and the Qawm, the tribe of Juhayna, on the other side. As the skirmishes began, there were two Sahaba. One was Usama radiallahu anh, and the other was another person from the Ansar. These two, they got together and they said, that person on the other side, he's one of the important people, we need to take him down. As they found an opportunity to attack this person, they both went. The person from the Ansar went first. This person, seeing that he's outnumbered, seeing that his friends are not around him, instead of fighting, the first thing that he says was, La ilaha illallah. So the person from the Ansar, he put his sword away and he stepped back and he said, if this person said the kalima, I have no right to fight him. Usama radiallahu anhu, his mind began racing and he said, this person who said the kalima, clearly he's not sincere. This person who's saying the kalima, he's doing it out of fear of losing his life. He's an absolute liar. So Usama radiallahu anhu took out his sword and he slayed that person. Now, the army comes back to the Prophet ﷺ and he's asking them what happened. And news reached the Prophet ﷺ that this person said the kalima, the first person backed off, but Usama radiallahu anhu went forward. And the Prophet ﷺ, his face changed, his complexion changed. He was very, very upset. And he calls Usama radiallahu anhu and he says, Ya Usama, is this true? And Usama radiallahu anhu says, no, I assumed and it seemed and this is what, and he started giving his excuses. And the Prophet ﷺ says, on the day of judgment, Usama, what are you going to do when this person brings his iman? And Usama's trying his best to explain, Ya Rasulullah, I did, it was my judgment, that's what I did. And the Prophet ﷺ, he's like, Usama, what are you going, it was a sense of remorse, like, what are you going to do, Ya Usama? And then Usama radiallahu anhu said, I wish that I only accepted Islam that day, I wasn't a Muslim until that day. Because I'm so scared by the tone of the Prophet ﷺ that I worked on my hunch and it was a grave mistake. The lesson over here, in more practical purposes for myself, is when I interact, when I speak to people in my relationships, on my end, I try to make the best assumption, not the worst assumption. And I'll give you a common example. This happens almost all the time, very frequent. There's a big function happening. There's a relative get together, friends are getting together, and it's happening in 2 days or 3 days, and I get a phone call. And my friend says to me, oh yeah, hey, by the way, you know what, this was last minute, we didn't have time to plan it, but I just thought I'd let you know we're getting together in 2 days. The person explained himself. In my mind, I'm saying, no, this person's lying. Rather, all of them, they got together, they planned this months in advance, weeks in advance, and I was the only person left out. They're all liars. On what grounds am I making that assumption? On what grounds am I accusing them of putting me aside? The only benefit from that is going to ruin my faith, is going to have a negative impact on my relationship. And that's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالظَّنَّ. Avoid these negative thoughts, these negative assumptions, because it's only going to cause more harm than any good. Yes, this doesn't mean when I see, for instance, 3 people, they jump the fence, they're coming into my backyard with their masks and their faces covered, that, okay, you know what, su'ul dhan, let them do. Perhaps they're just going there, they lost something in my back. No, I'm going to go call the police. Iyyakum wal dhan. Dhan means I have no evidence to assume that this person is doing something wrong, and automatically I assume this person is out there to get me. This person, for instance, I try to give salam to someone, and the person just walks by. Yes, ideally the person gives salam, but in my mind, my knee-jerk reaction shouldn't be, this person, he looks down on me, he doesn't appreciate my work, he's humiliating me. No, I should give an excuse. Maybe he didn't hear me. Maybe he's in a rush. Maybe X, Y, and Z. And that should be our interactions with one another. And wallahi, the hadith is telling us, we adopt this mentality and it will strengthen our bonds. If we leave this mentality, this is the worst form of lying. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have a good assumption of one another. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from having ill intentions when we speak with one another and doubting each other's sincerity. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.